Today was the big, joyous day of my engagement to the Liu family's heiress. All of a city knew that I had been hopelessly devoted to Willow Liu for years, so much so that some people even mocked me, calling me a simp. Yet I didn't show the slightest bit of excitement. Instead, I made a bet with the little assistant standing beside me. Do you believe that in a moment, Willow will answer a phone call and then run away from the engagement right on the spot? Then she'll bring back some low-level office worker and say he's her one true love. And after that, everyone will wait for me to cry my eyes out and bankrupt myself trying to win her back. The assistant thought I'd completely lost my mind, and pulled out her phone, ready to call a psychiatrist. But when she looked up, he saw Willow actually answering a call, and then, under the gaze of all the guests, she bolted out of the venue. Chapter 1. I'm George Wang, the young heir of the Wang family in a city. Today was my engagement banquet with Willow Liu, the CEO of the Liu Group, another major corporation in a city. It should have been a day filled with joy, but there was hardly any happiness on my face. That was because I had transmigrated into the story of a novel, and a painfully cliché one at that. The original version of me was nothing more than a cannon fodder, deeply devoted male supporting role. I had loved the female lead for years and grown up with her as childhood sweethearts, but that kind of bond was no match for the sudden thrill of true love. The male lead, Makoto, was just an ordinary employee at the female lead's company. Through a series of coincidences and deliberate or accidental encounters, the two of them fell hopelessly in love. In the end, they overcame countless obstacles and lived happily ever after. While the male lead successfully rose to become one of a city's business tycoons, their love story was as beautiful as a fairy tale. If only it hadn't included an engagement with me, and today happened to be the day of my engagement to the female lead, Willow. Everyone knows that in novels these days, engagements never actually go through. According to the original plot, after answering a call from the male lead, the female lead would run to him without hesitation, leaving me alone to face the ridicule of a hall full of guests. The bride-to-be ran away. How embarrassing. Luckily, this has nothing to do with me. It's George who lost face, not me. As for me, I couldn't care less about any of that. All I wanted was to get through the ceremony as quickly as possible and go home to sleep. After all, I had transmigrated here while working overtime and was half asleep already. My little assistant said beside me, "Today should be the happiest day of your lives." "Not necessarily," I replied after snapping back to my senses. At that moment, Willow stepped onto the stage from backstage. Wearing a luxurious red evening gown, she was dazzling with jewels and radiance. Yet no matter how valuable the jewelry was, it couldn't steal attention away from her breathtaking beauty. Coincidentally enough, Willow's expression on stage mirrored mine. Not the slightest hint of joy one would expect from an engagement, but instead a trace of irritation. "Nana," I said, "why are the female leads in novels always so beautiful? Has President Wang been possessed today? What on earth is he talking about?" Hearing George's completely out of the blue comment, the assistant didn't know how to respond and could only complain silently in his heart. Before I could say anything else, Willow's assistant hurried over from the side, phone in hand, and rushed up to her. When Willow saw the name on the screen, she immediately snatched the phone from her assistant and answered the call. Her face lit up with unmistakable relief. "See, I told you so," I said with a pleased smile. "Having guessed correctly, maybe it's something important at the company," the assistant said, recovering from his shock after a brief pause. After all, for a woman to secure her position as CEO of the Liu Group, the effort and pressure behind it were self-evident. Answering a work call during an engagement didn't seem that strange, so the assistant didn't pay much attention to what President Wang had said earlier. "Left, right, cover your mouth." Anxious, hesitating, I didn't respond verbally. Instead, I raised my index finger and pointed at the female lead, issuing a rapid series of commands. On her end, it was as if she were a puppet on strings. After answering the call, she cooperated perfectly, glancing left and right, then seeming to hear something shocking. Her eyes reddened as she covered her mouth, clearly anxious, before her expression turned conflicted. "See, Nana, I told you so," I said. The assistant beside me pulled out his phone and began dialing a string of international numbers, clearly preparing to hire the best psychiatrist possible for President Wang. "Hello, yes. Come to a city. Doctors overseas have more experience with this kind of thing. I don't care how much it costs, get Dr. Mao here." Hey, President Wang, that phone is brand new. "Look, Willow's leaving," I said, snatching the assistant's phone and pointing toward the female lead. "Leaving, President Wang, don't worry, the engagement is about to start. No matter how busy work is, she still has to wait until after the enga." Before the assistant could finish his confident statement, Willow suddenly seemed to make up her mind and turned to leave. Her parents noticed something was wrong and hurried over to stop her. The three of them began whispering urgently, sounding as if they were arguing. I couldn't hear what they were saying at first, but before long, their voices grew louder. I have to go. Something happened to Makoto. The engagement banquet can be held anytime, but Makoto needs me right now. The female lead was the first to lose her composure. Her earlier calm vanished, replaced by agitation, her voice rising unconsciously. How long are you going to keep acting willful? All for that Makoto, no matter how urgent his situation is. This is not a reason to leave right now. Father Lu, hearing his daughter raise her voice, could no longer suppress his anger. He shouted back, drawing frequent glances from the guests. He knew perfectly well about the ambiguous relationship between Willow Lu and Makoto, but he had never taken it seriously. After all, his daughter and George had been betrothed since childhood and grown up together. In his eyes, she was just chasing novelty, and novelty always faded quickly, so he had chosen to turn a blind eye. But now it seemed his daughter had completely lost her head over love, to the point of wanting to flee the engagement in public. That's right, Willow. Look, George is sitting over there waiting for you. Are you really going to turn both the Wang and Lu families into the laughingstock of all a city? Mother Lu added at just the right moment. Hi. Seeing Mother Lu trying to persuade her daughter while pointing in my direction, I politely waved back. I don't care. The female lead had originally planned to leave through backstage, but after her parents made such a scene, she turned and walked toward me instead. George, I'm sorry. Let's postpone today's engagement. I have an urgent. The door's over there. Before she could finish, I interrupted her in a calm tone and pointed toward the back entrance. It was the kind of look that clearly said, if you want to go, then go, just don't interfere with me enjoying the banquet. She froze, sensing something was off. Shouldn't you be stopping me? You're being way too understanding. But there was no time to dwell on it. She hurriedly explained again. I'm sorry, George. One of my friends was in a car accident. That way. I cut her off again, this time more firmly, pointing behind her once more, clearly urging her to disappear from my sight so I could move on to the next step. As for what had happened to the male lead, I didn't even need to guess. Everyone knows protagonists have a natural gets hit by a car aura. I was long past being surprised. I'm sorry. I'll come back as soon as I've handled it. Even though Willow felt something was strange, seeing that George didn't stop her, she couldn't spare the thought. She quickly left the hall. Chapter 2. Son-in-law. Willow has been spoiled by us since she was little. She really does have you in her heart. Please don't take this to heart. Father Lu said hurriedly. That's right, son-in-law. Look at what a mess this turned into. But good things take time. How about we reschedule the engagement? Mother Lu added quickly, seeing that the female lead had still left and they couldn't stop her. The Lu parents rushed over to apologize to me, although both the Wang and Lu families were considered prominent in a city. If one really compared them, the Lu family was at best second tier in front of the Wang family. If not for the friendship between the previous generation and George's affection, the Lu family wouldn't even have been qualified to marry into the Wang family. So even though they usually relied on my fondness for Willow, and still carried themselves with the airs of elders, in a situation like this, the Lu parents could only tread carefully around me. It's fine. It's fine. No need to reschedule, just change the person. I replied generously, still smiling. But those words made the Lu parents feel a chill run down their spines. Son-in-law, that joke really can't be made. Mother Lu quickly stepped forward, grabbing one of my hands with a forced smile. Yes, son-in-law. This marriage between you and Willow was decided back in the old master's generation. This isn't something to joke about. Father Lu echoed, grabbing my other hand. The two of them were so nervous that they were gripping tightly. For a moment, I felt like I was being held up on both sides. It was almost comical. What's going on here? Head of the Lu family, why did Willow leave? My parents noticed the commotion and walked over to ask. Dad, you came at the perfect time, I said, pulling my hands free. Willow isn't getting engaged anymore. Let the guests eat and drink as they please. Once they're done, they can head home. I quickly explained the situation to avoid delaying the banquet. That's not it. In-law, George is joking. Father Lu practically shouted. It's not that the engagement is cancelled, there was an emergency. I'm discussing rescheduling with George. To the Lu family, being tied to the Wang family through marriage was nothing but benefits and zero downsides. How could he possibly give up such a golden opportunity for the Lu family to rise? Head of the Lu family, my father said slowly. Willow leaving like that, doesn't that mean she didn't take our Wang family seriously? That's putting it lightly, I added from the side. She didn't just ignore us, she stomped our face into the ground. Enough. Stop fooling around. My father snapped, stopping me, then turned to Father Lu with a frown. President Lu, you owe the Wang family an explanation. By now, Father Lu was drenched in sweat. In-law, please rest assured. 3 days. Within 3 days, I'll personally bring my daughter to your home and give the Wang family an explanation." At that moment, Father Lu wished he could immediately hunt his daughter down, tie her up, and drag her to the Wang family to beg for forgiveness. "Fine. 3 days," I said quickly, locking it in before he could say more. "After 3 days, if there's no explanation, the marriage is cancelled immediately." That way, I left him no room to maneuver, and could also give our elders a proper answer. The novel made it very clear. Thanks to the female lead getting there fast, the male lead hadn't healed yet. If she'd been any later, he would have recovered already, and even then, she didn't go straight back to the Lu family. Instead, she took the male lead to the Maldives for half a month, claiming it was to soothe their emotions. Honestly, if I hadn't had at least 3 vaccine shots against bad writing, there's no way I could have endured this trashy novel. "Hey, son-in-law," I didn't say cancel. Father Lu started, hating my loose mouth with every fiber of his being. But before he could finish, I cut him off again. "Oh, retaliation. Of course not, Uncle Lu. Don't worry. How could I possibly cut off all business between the Wang and Lu families just because you disagreed? And how could I possibly suppress the Lu family? I didn't say." "Oh, right," I continued cheerfully. "That piece of land we gifted to the Lu family, you'll need to return that as well, Uncle Lu." Father Lu's face flushed red, then pale, then red again, as if he were about to pass out and kick off the banquet early. "That's right, head of the Lu family," my father said coldly. 3 days. After 3 days, what the Wang family wants to see, I believe you understand. Chapter 3. At this moment, my father's expression was dark and grim, nothing like a joke. He stared at Father Lu and spoke slowly, enunciating every single word. Truth be told, my father had never been fond of this marriage in the first place. Not because he looked down on the Lu family for being far beneath us. It was because his own son liked Willow far too much, and he had watched the two of them grow up together. When they were young, their relationship had been fairly harmonious, but after they grew up, that Lu girl clearly became half-hearted toward his son. No one understands their own child better than a parent. It was better to find someone who truly reciprocated the feelings, preferably healthy too. If this account was already ruined, then scrap it and quickly start a new one. In a sense, my father wasn't wrong. In the novel's ending, Makoto ended up swallowing the Wang group whole, and the female lead's help played no small part in that. "Fine." After a brief silence, Father Lu finally forced the word "fine" out through clenched teeth. He had no choice. When you're under someone else's roof, you have to lower your head. And this time, his side was clearly in the wrong. He swore to himself that he would go buy some rope immediately, 2 bundles at least, and tie Willow up if that was what it took to bring her back. Good luck with that, if he can even find Willow. Watching Father Lu's miserable expression, I silently offered him my blessings. "All right then, Dad, I'm heading out," I said. "I was too excited yesterday and didn't sleep well. I'm going home to catch up on sleep." With everything settled, I prepared to bow out gracefully. "Get back here." My mother, who had been silent all this time, finally spoke up and stopped me. "So many guests came today, and you're just leaving them all like this?" She pointed around at the crowd. By now, the guests had completely forgotten why they were even here. Each of them was clutching snacks, ears perked up, listening intently, terrified of missing any juicy gossip. "Isn't that what you're here for?" I said, stepping forward and grabbing my mother's arm, shaking it playfully as I acted spoiled. In the novel, the original character's mother doted on him the most. She was completely defenseless against this kind of behavior, and surrendered in no time. "Nana," she said helplessly, "help see the guests out. Once you're done, go home early. I'll give you the day off." "Ah, President Wang, The assistant watched me walk away without even looking back. Despite 1,000 unwilling thoughts, he could only accept his fate. "Fine. Finally, it's over." I let out a long sigh of relief. Then, without caring about the chaos behind me, I clasped my hands behind my back and strolled straight out the door. Chapter 4. The Wang Residence. I stretched lazily on the bed. After the engagement banquet storyline wrapped up, I had the driver take me straight home so I could catch up on sleep. This nap was incredibly satisfying. I felt like I'd slept through the accumulated exhaustion of 2 lifetimes. After getting up and doing a quick tidy up, I had barely stepped downstairs when I saw the little assistant staring at me with a pair of resentful, aggrieved eyes. "Morning," I greeted cheerfully. "President Wang." "It's not morning anymore," she said helplessly. "If you'd slept any longer, I was about to call a doctor." "Is it really that bad?" I replied casually. "I gave you a day off, didn't I? Why are you back?" Glancing at the yellowing sky outside, I asked with a hint of guilt. "The chairman is looking for you." The moment work was mentioned, the assistant immediately turned serious. "Ugh, damn plot again. When am I ever going to enjoy my simple, low-key rich second-generation heir life?" I complained inwardly. I finally transmigrated into a rich air, and I hadn't enjoyed a single day of it. Let's go, I said, pulling my thoughts back and rubbing my temples. Your clothes. Before I could stand up, the assistant grabbed me again. Oh, right, I'm still in my pajamas. Give me a minute. Okay. Watching my retreating figure, the assistant rubbed her forehead. To be fair, President Wang was a genuinely nice person. It was just that his careless personality seemed to be getting worse by the day. The old Wang family residence. My father pointed at a thick stack of documents on the table. There's a project in South City. I want you to follow up on it. Here it came. The official beginning of the Wang Group's decline, right on schedule. In the original novel, Wang Group planned to heavily develop a parcel of land in South City. The initial plan was to turn it into a high-end mixed-use residential project, conveniently located next to a residential development by the Liu family. If Wang Group succeeded, the neighboring Liu project would benefit as well. But the female lead wasn't satisfied, relying on the original George's feelings for her. She repeatedly demanded changes to the plan to better accommodate the Liu group. As a result, the construction schedule was delayed again and again. In the end, the project was halted for not matching the approved plans, dragging Wang Group's stock into a limit-down crash and nearly breaking the capital chain. The Wang Group never fully recovered from that blow. Honestly, the original guy was perfectly competent in business, but the moment it came to the female lead, he completely shut his brain off. Zero rationality. Understood, I replied obediently. Complaints aside, turning to the side, I added, Nana, take these documents, review them, then write me a detailed plan. After that, follow up with the project department. I skimmed the materials and casually handed them to the assistant. Me. She froze, clearly not expecting to suddenly get real work instead of being an NPC in the background. Of course, I said seriously, most people don't get a chance to touch a project this big. Do a good job, you've got a bright future. Yes, she replied. Thankfully, she was already used to President Wang's habit of being a hands-off boss. She had heard of this project before. It was Wang Group's key project for the year. Still, with her limited experience, being put in charge made her more than a little nervous. At that moment, my father spoke up again. That's right, Nana. You're a top graduate from C University. Sticking by this brat for the past 2 years has been a waste of your talent. It's time for you to get real experience. Work hard. The future of Wang Group belongs to you young people. My father held this assistant in high regard. That was precisely why he had placed her by my side in the first place, hoping she would eventually become my right-hand support. Yes, Chairman, I'll do my best. Impressive. You draw even bigger pies than I do. I silently admired my cheap old man's motivational speech skills, but listening closely, it sounded suspiciously like he was trying to transfer my assistant away. Hey, Dad, what do you mean by that? I protested. Don't poach my people. She's mine. As I spoke, I pulled the assistant behind me. My tall frame blocked most of her from view, leaving only half of her slightly flushed face exposed. It made her look a bit silly and unexpectedly cute. Stop fooling around, my father scolded. All right, business is done. Now let's talk about your situation. What are your thoughts about the Liu family? Even though he disliked Willow, she was still, in name, my fiancée. How things would proceed depended on my attitude. Has the Liu family found Willow yet? I asked. No, my father replied. I heard she went abroad. Liu Quan has been frantic, called me over a dozen times, apologizing non-stop, hoping we'll show some mercy. Of course he's anxious. The marriage with the Wang family is about to fall through. Poor Willow's dad. Thinking that, I turned serious and said to my father, Dad, I was very clear yesterday. Willow humiliated the Wang family in front of so many people. A woman with no sense of propriety like that, what right does she have to marry into the Wang family? True, there's a lot of discussion outside about Wang Group right now. My father sighed. But you've always liked that girl. Are you really willing to give her up just like that? Before, I was blinded by emotions. I replied calmly, but I've thought it through. Sure, forcing things can still quench thirst, but why not choose something sweeter? Marriage is a lifelong matter. Instead of a life full of resentment, it's better to let everyone go free. The assistant beside me was still struggling to adapt to such a drastic change in me. Has President Wang snapped from the shock? I really need to hurry up and call Dr. Mao. It made sense. After all, no one knew better than her how deep my feelings for Willow had been. This wasn't something I should have been able to let go of so easily. It's good that you can think this way, my father said with relief. I was worried you wouldn't be able to handle the blow. All right, Dad, if there's nothing else, I'll get going. Hey, at least eat before you leave, my father hurriedly said. Your mom made your favorite, drunken crab. I've got an appointment, I replied. As I spoke, I dragged away the assistant, who was just about to pull out her phone to urge the overseas specialist again, and left without looking back. Chapter 5. President Wang. Who are you going to meet? Why isn't it on the schedule? The little assistant asked in confusion as she was dragged along. Nana, I said instead of answering. Can you drive that sports car in the garage? I'd spotted a flashy red sports car in the garage earlier by accident. It instantly made my hands itch. Before transmigrating, I'd just been a broke nobody. Sure, I had a driver's license, but a supercar like that. I wouldn't even know where to start the engine. Now that I finally had the chance, how could I not try? If this is a dream, at least let me take a few laps before I wake up. I looked at her expectantly, so intensely that it actually made her a bit uneasy. I can. As a professional assistant, she naturally knew every detail about her boss's vehicles. What she couldn't understand was this. President Wang had never liked flashy toys like that. That sports car had been a birthday gift from Madame Wang. He'd never driven it once. After delivery, it had been shoved into the deepest corner of the garage to collect dust. What was going on with President Wang today? No, what was going on with him lately? Then what are we waiting for? Let's go. Getting her confirmation, I excitedly grabbed her hand and started pulling her along. While she was still lost in thought. Wait, President Wang, that car's been sitting for too long. Let me have someone check it first. Even as she was being dragged along, the assistant was already on the phone with the house steward. Before long, under her guidance, I was driving the car with her riding shotgun, cruising along the coastal highway. This is awesome. This is what a rich second-generation heir is supposed to do. What's the point of drowning in romance all day? Isn't indulgence and luxury way better? President Wang, you've already driven 2 laps. We really should head back. The assistant reminded me softly. Nana, I said, slowing the car and turning serious. I've been calling you Nana this whole time. What's your real name? Honestly, this question did risk exposing myself, but it wasn't my fault. This assistant was such a minor character that the novel never even mentioned her name. All I knew was that the original George treated her well. And she was his most loyal subordinate. Even when he later fell from power, she never left his side. Just as she was about to answer, a motorcycle suddenly sped out from the opposite lane at a bend, cut straight into our lane, and nearly slammed into the sports car. Luckily, I reacted fast and yanked the steering wheel hard, barely avoiding a collision. Even so, the assistant screamed in shock, heart pounding. I quickly regained control and pulled over to the side of the road. In the rearview mirror, I saw the motorcycle make a sharp turn and ride back toward us. Fuck your mother. Do you even know how to drive? You almost crashed into me. Before I even rolled down the window, I heard a greeting packed with an exceptionally high concentration of mother. Chapter 6. I'd thought he came over to apologize. Instead, he had the nerve to play the victim first. Listening to him, I felt irritated, but I didn't blow up right away. After getting out of the car, I asked calmly, "Friend, I think you've got it wrong. You were the one who swerved your motorcycle into my lane. How did that turn into me being at fault?" "George?" The other party blurted out my name the moment he saw me step out. "You know me?" I asked, frowning. "President Wang. He's the younger Liu family president." The assistant who had gotten out with me whispered by my ear, "The younger Liu president. Willow's little brother, Mickey Liu." In the novel, this so-called young President Liu had screwed over the original George plenty of times, and the original George, fully embodying simp behavior, had tolerated him endlessly. The worst part was that all that sincerity never earned any return from Mickey. Instead, he'd hit it off instantly with the male lead, becoming thick as thieves. Didn't expect to run into him here. Mickey's gaze, however, lingered on the sports car behind me. With a crooked grin, he said, "Brother-in-law, how did you know I like this model? Too bad it's discontinued, only a few left worldwide. How about this, lend it to me for a few days. When my sister gets back, I'll put in a good word for you. How about that?" Though Mickey called me brother-in-law, there wasn't the slightest hint of respect in his tone. At that moment, the others who'd been riding with him gathered around as well. So this is the George the young Liu president always talks about. The simp, gotta say, at least he's good looking. Good looking. So what? The whole A city knows it. George got ditched at his engagement. He's a walking joke now. Hey, keep it down. If he hears you, you'll be the one crying later. What's there to be afraid of? We're rolling with the young Liu president. If he wants to get married in the future, George will still have to suck up to us. Hearing his buddies talk like that, Mickey didn't stop them at all. Instead, he looked smug and pleased with himself, so much so that it made my stomach turn. Before I could say anything, Mickey casually walked over and reached for the car door. The transmigrated me wasn't about to indulge him anymore. I slapped his hand away in one swift motion. "Brother-in-law, what's that supposed to mean?" Mickey snapped. "Nothing special," I replied coolly. "Cars and women, neither is ever lent out. brother-in-law. Don't be so stingy, he sneered. Think carefully. If you offend me, do you still think you can marry my sister? Heh, I laughed. I really don't want to. The engagement between President Wang and President Liu has already been put on hold, because President Liu left the banquet without permission. So, the assistant, who'd been silent until now, stepped in to explain at just the right moment. But Mickey clearly wasn't interested. He shoved her aside roughly. You looking to die? Seeing the assistant get bullied, I didn't hesitate. I swung my leg and kicked Mickey straight away. That felt good. I wanted to do this when I was reading the novel. This is how a rich heir solves problems. You dare bully my people. The old George might have tolerated you, but I won't. Watching Mickey crash to the ground, I felt a surge of satisfaction. George, you fucking dare kick me, he roared. Yeah, I replied coldly, and honestly, I didn't even use much force. Your face skin's connected to the meat underneath, too damn thick. Didn't even feel satisfying to hit. Mickey had never suffered a loss like this. He immediately shouted at the others. What are you standing around for? Get him. I'd like to see who dares. I let out a furious roar, stunning the whole group into silence. The spoiled second-generation brats hanging around Mickey were used to eating, drinking, and causing trouble under their family names. But my shout snapped them awake. Right, I'm a Wang. Why should they risk their necks for Mickey? As for me, I was already fired up. Staring at them with undisguised anger, then I took a swift step forward, grabbed the loudest one from earlier, and slapped him hard across the face. Chapter 7. Smack. So you were the one who called me a simp, huh? Smack, smack, smack. Still not satisfied, I slapped him 3 more times, knocking him straight to the ground. His face instantly swelled up, red and puffy. No wonder novels aimed at female readers are always slapping people. Damn, it really is satisfying. I wasn't afraid of any retaliation from their families at all. Not only were their families weaker than the Wang family to begin with, these guys spent their days eating, drinking, and messing around with Mickey. And their status within their own families wasn't high either. If things really blew up, they'd probably be the ones coming to me to apologize. So, I asked calmly, looking at them, am I still a simp? The group that was usually so arrogant and domineering now stood there in dead silence. Not a single person dared to speak. Seeing his gang of so-called brothers trembling with fear, Mickey felt like he'd completely lost face and stepped forward to argue. George, aren't you afraid my sister will find out? My assistant already kindly reminded you earlier, I said coldly. You didn't bother to remember, so I'll say it again. And all of you listen carefully. I paused briefly, then swept my gaze over everyone present. My engagement with Willow is about to be officially cancelled. We have nothing to do with each other anymore. What you said just now, I'll let it slide this once. But if I ever hear it again, don't blame me for not being polite. Then I turned to Mickey. And you, go home and ask your parents. See if they dare talk to me the way you just did. Still not feeling satisfied, I kicked Mickey again, sending him flying. You worthless mutt. You think you can get attention by provoking me? President Wang. Just as I was about to vent all the humiliation I'd suffered in the novel, my assistant tugged nervously at the corner of my clothes, signaling for me to stop. There was no need to lower myself to these trashy people. I nodded at her and swept my eyes around. Mickey, who'd been so cocky earlier, now looked like a startled bird, completely rattled. I don't want to see you again, I said coldly. You've got 10 seconds. Get out of my sight. Hearing that, Mickey and his group looked as if they'd been granted amnesty. They dragged along the still unwilling Mickey, jumped on their motorcycles, and disappeared from my view in a flash. President Wang, what you did today wasn't very rational. What? Worried they'll retaliate? I asked casually. That's not it, the assistant replied. At most it was a minor conflict. Even if they're resentful, no one would really stand up for them. What I mean is, this makes things hard to explain to President Liu's side. Do you want me to marry Willow? I asked bluntly. You and President Liu grew up together, she said carefully. It's not really my place to judge. TCH. I scoffed. I told you before, I used to like her. Treat her well. No matter how she treated me, I didn't care. But now, I don't like her anymore. After hearing her answer, I continued. Do you really think you've let go? The assistant still looked worried. I'm afraid it's just an impulsive decision. If you regret it later and want to make amends, it'll be difficult. After all, the outside world doesn't know yet that you're about to cancel the engagement. Her concern was genuine. You make a good point, I said thoughtfully. Later, help me spread the news that I'm canceling the engagement with Willow. I don't feel like explaining myself every time I see someone. Then I added, we're about the same age. Stop calling me President Wang all the time. Just call me normally. That won't do, she replied immediately. You're President Wang. So you do remember I'm your boss? I raised an eyebrow. It sounds awkward. Change it. Yes. Oh right, I added, glancing at the darkening sky. It's getting late. What are some good nightclubs in a city? No, President Wang. The assistant immediately tried to stop me. Huh? Why not? I asked, confused. It's just not allowed. President Wang, there's still a lot of unfinished work on the project, she said, her face flushing slightly as she scrambled for a work-related excuse. Isn't that what you're for? I replied lazily. Tomorrow there's an important coordination meeting for the project. I still need to brief you in advance. Without giving me any chance to argue further, she pushed the reluctant me back into the car and headed straight for the Wang residence. Chapter 8. Nothing happened overnight. Early the next morning, I went with my assistant to Wang Group for a meeting. There wasn't anything particularly special about the project itself. It was a solid project, although the market wasn't great right now. The location more than made up for it. Wang Group also had professional staff handling all aspects of the work. There were plenty of tasks, but after everything was set in motion, I somehow ended up being the most idle one. Without the brain-dead moves George made in the original book, the project coordination went exceptionally smoothly. But this was a novel. After all, conflict was never in short supply. Just as I finally had some free time, a call came from home. Willow was back. The plot had deviated from the main storyline. Willow, who was supposed to be abroad accompanying the male lead, had been dragged back early by her father and was now apologizing at the Wang family's old residence. There was no helping it, completely cutting ties with the female lead was never going to be that simple. Reluctantly, I returned to the old residence with my assistant. The moment I stepped into the living room, I saw Father Lu plastering a smile on his face as he apologized to my parents. Willow stood off to the side, her face full of indignation. When Father Lu saw me arrive, he hurried over with a smile and greeted me. Son-in-law, you're finally back. This is all my fault for spoiling Willow too much, otherwise this joke of a situation wouldn't have happened. Don't worry, I've already given her a harsh lesson. I'm even discussing with your father when we should hold another engagement banquet. Hey, Uncle Lu, I'm really not cut out to be your Lu family son-in-law. Let's just talk about ending the engagement as soon as possible. I was already fed up with being bothered by the Lu family every other day, so I didn't bother being polite to Father Lu either. Son-in-law, I know you're holding a grudge, but marriage is a serious matter, you can't just call it off on a whim. Father Lu seemed completely oblivious to the sarcasm in my words and continued on. George, what kind of attitude is that? Is this how you speak to my dad? Is this the upbringing of the Wang family? Before I could say anything, Willow, standing nearby, grew unhappy at my attitude. Sometimes plot contrivances really have no solution. When we were kids, Willow used to chase after me, calling me Brother George non-stop. A sweet little girl. But as she grew older, our relationship became colder and colder. The book explained it as Willow not wanting her marriage to be controlled by others, which was why she started distancing herself from me. Now, the two of us couldn't even manage basic pleasantries when we met. The Wang family's upbringing never taught me to smile at someone who runs away from their own engagement. After Willow spoke, I didn't indulge her at all and shot back directly. That's right, Willow, this is on you. You're about to get married and you're still messing around. Hurry up and apologize to George. Seeing that my attitude hadn't softened just because his daughter had returned, Father Lu, who had been watching from the sidelines, immediately stepped forward to scold Willow. George, it was just an engagement banquet. I had an urgent matter and had no choice but to leave. I'm back now, aren't I? Do you really have to be this petty? Was the female lead educated while still in the placenta? Fine if she can't read the room, but what's with this completely entitled attitude? Does she seriously think I'd still come running like a simp? Miss Lu, by the urgent matter you mentioned, you don't mean going to the Maldives to soak up the sun with a subordinate, do you? After finishing my inner rant about Willow, I directly exposed her affair with the male lead. How dare you talk to me like that, George? Clearly, Willow still saw me as the same old simp from before and couldn't accept my current attitude. Willow, say less. Seeing that her daughter was about to continue, Mother Lu quickly stepped in to stop her and pulled Willow aside. Head of the Lu family, what exactly does George mean by what he just said? I think you'd better explain this properly. If Willow has found herself a good match, you can say so openly. The Wang family isn't so desperate that we must marry into your Lu family. Chapter 9. Originally, my mother had been thinking along the lines of better to tear down 10 temples than ruin one marriage, and still wanted to try mediating things. After all, she had watched Willow grow up, who hadn't done a few outrageous things when they were young. But after hearing her son say that Willow had run away from the engagement because of another man, and had even gone abroad, no matter how good-tempered my mother was, her tone hardened. This is all a misunderstanding, all of it. Father Lou said hurriedly. Willow is just too responsible. She heard that a company employee was in a car accident and got worried. So she went to check on him. They're just ordinary colleagues. Father Lou knew his excuse was flimsy, but he had no choice except to force himself to explain. Colleagues. If an employee gets into a car accident, there are parents, an ambulance, and company HR to handle it. Since when does the boss have to personally rush over? After finishing my inner rant, I didn't feel like continuing to tangle with him. Instead, I walked over to my parents. Dad, Mom, I've already made up my mind to call off this marriage. I ask for your support. The assistant who had been quietly following behind me looked at me with a subtle change in his gaze. President Wang has changed. He actually wants to cancel the engagement with President Liu. On Willow's side, she was clearly stunned, disbelief written all over her face. She should have felt happy, but upon hearing the words, call off the engagement, her heart felt strangely empty, as if something that belonged to her had suddenly been lost. After hearing me out, my parents exchanged a look. It seemed they had finally made a decision regarding this marriage arranged by the older generation. Then my father spoke. Head of the Liu family, since both families are here today, let's speak plainly. My son and your daughter clearly have fate but no future. Dragging this out will only make things ugly. I say we end it here. As for the benefits we previously promised your Liu family, let them remain as they were. Willow. Just as Father Liu was hesitating over whether to cut his losses, a strange man forced his way into the Wang residence. Ignoring the security guards trying to stop him, the man was tall and slender, with an air of fragility. Beneath his handsome features was a trace of melancholy. His clothes were cheap, yet they couldn't hide his outstanding presence, someone unforgettable at first glance. If this wasn't the male lead, who else could it be? Makoto. So this is the male lead. He does have some capital, but just barging in like this, how is that reasonable? Are the security guards I paid so much for just decorative? Hearing Willow call out the man's name, I more or less guessed his identity and silently complained. Willow. The man called Willow's name the moment he entered. Why did you come? You've only just recovered. Why aren't you resting properly at home? Seeing the male lead, Willow hurried forward, grabbed his hand, and spoke with concern. Watching the male and female leads acting all lovey-dovey together, I chose the right moment to speak up. Exactly. The sunshine in the Maldives is intense. Take a good look. Didn't you get sunburned? After hearing my words, Willow actually felt a sense of relief. She believed I was only talking about calling off the engagement and was actually playing hard to get. Clearly, she took everything I'd just said as jealousy. With that thought, a hint of smugness appeared on Willow Liu's face, and her movements with Makoto grew even more intimate. Head of the Liu family, is this what you call an ordinary employee? My mother said coldly. After hearing her son's words and seeing the two acting so intimately, my mother's expression grew even darker. Yes, head of the Liu family, my father followed up. In that case, I'll have to retract what I said earlier. The engagement will still be called off, but every single benefit the Wang family promised your Liu family, I want it all back. Among wealthy families, affairs of love were usually handled in private, with both sides maintaining basic decorum. But these two were openly flaunting their relationship right in front of the Wang family. This was a blatant show of disrespect. My father had originally planned, for the sake of the previous generation's relationship, to spend some money just to be done with it. But if he kept yielding now, it would truly be humiliating. Head of the Wang family, this is a misunderstanding. I can explain, Father Liu said anxiously. Before he could finish, Willow couldn't hold back and stepped forward. George, don't be so narrow-minded. I didn't do anything excessive. Makoto is an outstanding employee of the Liu group. What's wrong with me showing some concern? Slap. Hearing Willow's baffling words, I was almost amused with anger. But before I could respond, Father Liu slapped Willow across the face, cutting her off. At this moment, Father Liu was utterly exasperated. He had no idea what kind of thing he'd given birth to. At a time like this, she was still pouring oil on the fire. He had originally hoped that even if the engagement was cancelled, the Liu family could still gain something. But after this mess, it was likely all going to evaporate. Willow, are you all right? Chapter 10. When the male lead saw the female lead get slapped, he immediately rushed forward to shield Willow. Seeing Father Liu strike his own daughter for the sake of righteousness filled me with indescribable delight. The corner of my mouth unconsciously curled up. This engagement was definitely getting cancelled. Even Jesus couldn't stop it. I said so. Makoto looked down at Willow in his arms, then turned to me, who was looking rather pleased, and said, George, don't get too smug. Don't bully the poor. Just wait 10 years, no, 5 years. That's enough. I don't care how many years. I cut him off impatiently. I already had an engagement with Willow. You're the mistress here. What more do you have to say? I had no interest in listening to the male lead's trash talk and shut him down directly. The one who isn't loved is the real mistress. George, I'll definitely make you regret this. Willow, let's go. Makoto's face flushed red from being refuted, yet he had no way to argue back. He could only hold Willow and leave in embarrassment. Uncle Lu, your daughter and son-in-law have already left, why aren't you going after them? The Wang family doesn't provide meals. Seeing both the male and female leads retreat, I promptly issued an eviction order to father and mother Lu as well. Head of the Lu family, my father said coolly. George may have spoken harshly, but the logic stands. What to do next, I believe you understand very well. Faced with my father's aggressive stance, Father Lu had no room to argue and could only bow his head in agreement. With things having reached this point, Father Lu felt utterly humiliated and left in disgrace with Mother Lu. Finally some peace and quiet. Though I've now made an enemy of the male lead, but even in the original book, my constant tolerance was nothing more than self-delusion. When the male lead went after Wang Group, he showed not a shred of mercy. All right then, Dad, Mom, I'm heading out too. Feeling that this trip had been extremely rewarding, I prepared to make my escape. Get back here. Eat first before you go. Seeing me about to leave, my mother rushed over, grabbed my ear, and dragged me back. The pain made me immediately beg for mercy. And Nana, you should stay for a simple meal too, my mother said warmly. This brat definitely bullies you all the time. Tell Auntie later, I'll get revenge for you. Though my mother hadn't met my assistant many times, she was quite fond of her and insisted on keeping her for the meal as well. At the dining table, I showed no reserve. Facing a table full of delicacies, I devoured everything like a whirlwind, completely satisfied. My father, meanwhile, chatted intermittently with me and my assistant about work. Slow down, no one's stealing your food. Watching her son eat with such gusto, my mother complained verbally, but inwardly she was quite happy. Nana, don't be shy, have some dishes. As she spoke, my mother picked up a piece of fish and placed it into my assistant's bowl. Thank you, Auntie. The assistant, feeling unexpectedly favored, quickly raised her bowl to receive the food and thanked her. No need to be polite. By the way, Nana, where are you from? Do you have any siblings? What do your parents do? Seeing how well-behaved my assistant looked while eating, my mother grew even fonder of her and casually began asking about her family. Mom, are you doing a household registration check? I complained, seeing my mother firing questions like a machine gun. Just chatting, my mother replied indifferently. Auntie, I'm from Orange City. I'm an only child. My parents are teachers, both retired now. My assistant answered politely, unaffected by my interruption. Oh, Orange City, I know it. The football scene there is pretty good. Are you used to living here? Are you dating anyone? Mom, this is really rude. I told you not to casually pry into other people's privacy. Seeing my mother's questions getting more and more excessive, I cut in again. It's okay, President Wang, my assistant said calmly. Auntie, I'm focusing on my career right now, not in a hurry to date. Coming from an ordinary family, my assistant was already accustomed to this kind of parent-style interrogation. In fact, every time she went home for the holidays after graduating, she'd be questioned by elders all over again. But my mother's next sentence completely stunned her. How can you not be in a hurry? These are your best years, you can't just work all the time. What do you think of my son? Cough, cough. Before my assistant could answer, I nearly choked on my food. Mom, what are you saying? How can you ask a family girl something like that? Yeah, dear, my father chimed in. Let the kids handle their own matters. We can't force things to grow faster than they should. What do you mean, handle their own matters? What kind of nonsense is this? Dad, Mom, I'm full. Nana, didn't you say you have a meeting this afternoon? Don't be late. With that, I grabbed my assistant, who was practically burying her head under the table, and hurriedly left the Wang family's old residence. My parents are getting old, they like to joke around. Don't take it to heart, I said apologetically. It's fine. Auntie is very nice, my assistant replied. Perhaps because of the sunlight, her cheeks were faintly flushed. President Wang, where are we going? Wait here while I get the car. I didn't eat enough earlier, I'll take you out for another proper meal. After saying that, I headed toward the garage. If it wasn't a joke, watching President Wang's back as he walked away, the assistant murmured softly to herself. Chapter 11. Ever since the engagement between the Wang family and Willow Lu was officially called off at the Wang family's old residence, the Lu family had finally quieted down quite a bit. All the betrothal gifts previously sent to Lu Group were returned as well. I heard that Willow had been stripped of her CEO position by Father Lu and confined at home to reflect on her mistakes. That actually bought me a rare stretch of peace and quiet. Of course, company projects still had to move forward, but with my assistant around, I wasn't particularly busy. During this time, I also finally learned my assistant's full name, Anna Su. It suited her perfectly, gentle and refined, just like a woman from the southern river towns. For some reason, ever since my mother casually mentioned trying to match me with my assistant at the Wang family's old residence, I'd started noticing her more and more, her words, her actions, Even her looks. That scared me a little. After all, I wasn't the original George. My soul had transmigrated into this body. I didn't even know how feelings like these were supposed to be counted. As I was thinking about it, my gaze drifted again toward my assistant's busy figure. Don't be fooled by her petite frame and slightly baby-faced cheeks that made her look adorably clueless most of the time. Once she got to work, she was full of drive, as if that small body contained endless energy, and my excessive attention made her glance over at me from time to time. Those big, doe-like eyes, almost anime-sized, seemed to be asking whether President Wang needed something. Every time that happened, I pretend nothing was going on and quickly look away. President Wang. Just as I was once again staring out the window and letting my thoughts wander toward my assistant, she pushed the door open and walked in. What is it? I asked, pulling myself together. President Wang, there's a banquet tonight. The chairman hopes you can attend. A banquet? Yes, the overseas JR Group will also be attending this time. I've heard they're interested in entering the domestic market and investing in the new energy sector. The chairman's intention is for you to go and make some connections. JR Group? Isn't this the plot point where the male lead starts to shine? The real estate market had been sluggish these past 2 years, and every company was looking for transformation, Wang Group included. It was at this very banquet that the male lead successfully poached the deal from Wang Group, winning JR Group's favor first and securing the cooperation. Makoto's name rose to prominence overnight because of it. As I was recalling the plot, my assistant continued. Oh right, earlier today, Lu Group announced that Willow Lu has resumed her position as CEO. The timing is probably related to this banquet as well. I wasn't surprised at all after hearing that. She was the female lead. After all, setbacks were always temporary. It just meant my peaceful days were probably over. After all, I was basically the male and female lead's personal XP pack. That evening, at the Orange Hotel in City A, I found myself back here again, this place, which I'd last visited for the engagement banquet. The moment I entered the lobby, I saw Willow and Makoto, with Willow reclaiming control of Lu Group. Makoto's status had risen along with her. I'd heard he'd already been transferred from the marketing department to become her executive assistant. Fresh off the engagement fiasco, the moment I stepped into the hall, countless gazes turned toward me. The female lead noticed as well. Seeing the two of them, I had no intention of greeting them and instead found a corner seat and sat down. I hadn't come tonight to fight the male lead over cooperation. I had another objective. President Wang, aren't our seats a bit too far back? My assistant whispered as soon as we sat down. Relax, I know what I'm doing. She still looked a little worried, but seeing how confident I appeared, she didn't say anything more. The reason I was so confident was because I remembered that later in the original novel, a rising domestic new energy giant, Natix Electronics, and its founder Luis would also appear at this very banquet. Based on my own investigation, compared to the later stage Natix Electronics, which would grow strong enough to compete head-on with major international corporations, the current Natix was still just a startup. And because of massive early-stage R&D costs, Natix was struggling badly right now. Luis was here precisely to seek investment. That was my real goal tonight. Compared to cooperating with JR Group, which would merely be icing on the cake, investing in Natix was more like a timely lifeline. The returns would be far greater. Pleasure to meet you, President Wang. Just as I was scanning the room for my target, a familiar voice sounded beside me. Makoto, wearing a smug smile, walked over with Willow in his arms. Don't block the way. I didn't bother greeting them at all. In fact, I was annoyed that they were in the way. Are you two ghosts or something? Why are you everywhere? I complained inwardly. George, stop pretending to play hard to get. Seeing that she was being ignored, Willow assumed I was just putting on an act and spoke irritably. No, can't you two just entertain yourselves? Why do you have to drag me into this? I snapped back impatiently. Chapter 12. Willow, don't get upset, Makoto said calmly, instead of taking it to heart, even going so far as to comfort her. President Wang, I know you're here because you want to cooperate with JR Group, but your wishful thinking is probably going to fall through. With me here, this partnership can only belong to Lu Group. Seeing Makoto so confident made me almost suspect he'd transmigrated too and already read the script. All right, yours, all yours. Happy now. I had zero interest in this cooperation to begin with. What I cared about right now was finding Luis. I really didn't have the patience to deal with the male and female leads and just wanted to send them packing as quickly as possible. President Wang, how about we make a bet? Let's see who wins in the end. Seeing that I wasn't engaging, Makoto didn't get angry. Instead, he launched straight into the classic betting trope. A bet, no interest. If you're really that bored, go find a mirror and play rock, paper, scissors with yourself. You're a grown man, stop playing childish games all day. George, you've gone too far. If you apologize to Makoto right now, I might forgive you. Seeing the male lead get mocked, the female lead immediately jumped in. Unhappy, trying to reclaim face for him. Apologize. Forgive me. Please don't forgive me, really. Keep it up, and while you're at it, kindly get lost. George, you. Just as the female lead was about to continue, a stir rippled through the room. The true star of tonight's banquet had arrived. A slightly plump, cold-tempered middle-aged noblewoman slowly entered, surrounded by a crowd. She was the Asia-Pacific president of JR Group, Alicia. Though already middle-aged and no longer in her prime physically, her looks still held up well. Years of battling in the business world, however, had left her features carrying a sharp, intimidating edge. Before long, Alicia reached the center of the banquet hall. Seeing this, the male and female leads immediately lost interest in arguing with me and hurried toward the center of the crowd. President Wang, we should go too, my assistant urged anxiously, seeing Alicia already surrounded several layers deep. In this heat, doesn't it sound miserable to have a bunch of people crowding together? I had no intention of going over. Instead, I casually picked up a drink from the side and handed it to my assistant. Try this, the lychee juice here is absolutely amazing. President Wang, didn't you forget the chairman's instructions? Seeing how unconcerned I looked, my assistant couldn't hide her anxiety. Relax. As I spoke, I finally spotted my real target. Ignoring my assistant's urging, I walked straight toward Luis, who was squeezed out on the edge of the crowd. Luis, pleasure to meet you, and you are? Luis, who had been worrying about not getting a chance to approach Alicia, looked at the young man greeting him in confusion. Wang Group, George. Wang Group. Of course he knew the name Wang Group, and naturally he had heard of George, the future successor of the Wang family. It was just that I knew him, while he didn't know me. For a newly founded company like his, it was extremely difficult to come into contact with Wang Group, especially since they were in completely different industries. That was why Luis was so surprised that President Wang had sought him out. President Wang, may I ask what guidance you're offering? Guidance would be too strong a word. How about we find a quieter place to talk? Glancing at the noisy environment, I suggested, if President Wang invites me, of course that's no problem. Luis replied, but could you wait a moment? I'd like to greet President Alicia first. Rare as this opportunity was, Luis hadn't forgotten the purpose of his trip. What if I told you that I'm very interested in your project, and I'd like to cooperate with Wang Group? Would you be willing? Cooperate? Really? President Wang? Luis could hardly believe his ears. It felt like a pie had fallen straight from the sky, as real as gold. So, are you still planning to squeeze forward? No, not anymore. Let's go right now. Luis had come precisely to secure investment and cooperation. Now that Wang Group was on the table, why would he care about anyone else? Besides, judging by the situation, by the time it was his turn, the banquet would probably already be over. Then let's head over there. Seeing him agree, I pointed toward a quiet corner in the distance. President Wang. My assistant looked utterly confused, not understanding why I wasn't going after Alicia but was instead choosing to work with this unknown figure. Relax. I lightly patted my assistant's small hand, signaling for her not to worry. I knew exactly what I was doing. Chapter 13. The three of us then moved to a nearby corner and took our seats. The conversation went remarkably smoothly. Nadix had solid projects and strong technology, lacking only financial backing, while Wang Group held abundant cash flow. It was a perfect match. Moreover, Luis's pragmatic personality suited my taste perfectly, and he, in turn, was quite pleased with the humble attitude of this young man before him. We hit it off immediately, both feeling a strong sense of, if only we'd met sooner. After finalizing the cooperation intent, Luis hurriedly excused himself, saying he needed to head back and organize the materials overnight. It wouldn't have been right to hold him back. After seeing Luis off, I was in an excellent mood, though my assistant beside me wore a troubled expression. With Luis gone, my assistant finally voiced the doubts she'd been holding back. President Wang, the chairman's intention was to pursue cooperation with JR Group. Although Nadix is also in the new energy sector, its scale is nowhere near JR's. Isn't it a bit rash to decide on this cooperation so abruptly? And how are we going to explain this to the chairman? Don't worry, I'll talk to my dad myself. And don't underestimate Nadix, believe it or not. It won't be long before Nadix becomes an industry leader. It won't be inferior to JR at all. When that happens, our returns will be unimaginable. As I was explaining things to my assistant, the male and female leads on the other side had already connected with Alicia. From afar, Alicia seemed particularly fond of them, not only pulling the two to her sides, but also dropping her previously aloof demeanor, smiling frequently and chatting animatedly. As expected, protagonists really do have benefactors everywhere they go. After mentally envying the male and female leads for a moment, I turned to my assistant. Let's go too. President Wang, are we really not going to try a bit more? She could tell Alicia clearly favored Lu Group and still felt somewhat unwilling to give up. "It's late, we should head back and get some sleep, especially you. Tomorrow's going to be busy. I'll need you to complete Natix's due diligence as soon as possible and prepare a detailed cooperation proposal. As for the South City project, let the marketing and project departments follow up for now, you just oversee it." I was fairly humane with my little workhorse. Yes, President Wang. I was growing more and more fond of this assistant. Her ability and execution were impeccable. And most importantly, she was fully aligned with me. Even when she had doubts about my decisions, she still carried them out conscientiously. Still early. After dropping her off, I should go check out a nightclub. What's the point of making all this money if I don't enjoy it? Just as I was thinking about how to reward myself, we arrived at the hotel entrance. Suddenly, my assistant, walking beside me, slipped. She was about to tumble down the steps. Thankfully, I reacted in time and pulled her into my arms. Our eyes met. We ended up locked in an extremely intimate pose. Looking at my assistant, still shaken, I felt a sudden dryness in my throat and quickly averted my gaze, though my hands showed no intention of letting go. "Are you okay?" I'm fine, thank you, President Wang." Only then did my assistant realize how awkward the situation was. Blushing, she hurriedly pulled herself out of my arms. On the drive back, the atmosphere in the car was noticeably awkward. We tacitly chose not to speak. After dropping my assistant off at home, I was all set to hit a nightclub, but then I suddenly remembered I hadn't collected the laundry at home. Left with no choice, I reluctantly headed back home instead. Chapter 14. Only a few days later, news of Lu Group signing a cooperation letter of intent with JR Group flooded the streets and alleys of City A. Seems like it happened earlier than in the book. At Wang Group, I had just hung up the phone with my father, my mind still stuck on the deviations in the plot. "President Wang, have you seen the news?" My assistant walked into the office holding her phone. "Yes, no need to pay it too much attention. Let's just stick to our own pace. How's Natix doing?" Early this morning, Natix called. Some details in the documents they faxed over earlier need revisions. They'll be sending someone over this afternoon to discuss it. "That's good." "Oh right, I already spoke with HR. Your salary is going up by 50%. "Thank you, President Wang." Hearing about the raise, my assistant happily thanked me. Looking at her excited expression, the image of that hug from a few days ago involuntarily surfaced in my mind. My assistant is really soft, as expected. Slightly chubby girls are way more comfortable to hold. President Wang. Seeing me stare at her absent-mindedly, my assistant asked in confusion, "Oh, nothing. By the way, didn't sleep well last night?" I noticed the faint dark circles under her eyes. In truth, she had been suffering from insomnia. For the past few days, her mind kept replaying the scene of President Wang holding her, making it impossible to fall asleep. And no, I was just busy preparing work things, so I went to bed a bit late. Of course, she couldn't possibly tell President Wang that she was kept awake by those embarrassingly intimate thoughts. Guess I've piled too much work on her. Once this busy stretch is over, I should give her some time off. I thought with a twinge of guilt. The negotiations with Natix went extremely smoothly and soon entered the formal contract signing stage. After reviewing the Natix materials I sent over and discussing things with me in detail, my father also approved the cooperation. After all, cooperation with JR was already off the table. The company his son strongly recommended looked solid after review, and it was a domestic enterprise at that. Given my father's military background, he was naturally more than willing to support it. Compared to Wang Group's steady, step-by-step progress, Lu Group's cooperation with JR could only be described as leaps and bounds. Willow seemed desperate to prove herself. Not long after signing the letter of intent, the formal cooperation was finalized. That was understandable, after all. It was a partnership with an international giant in one of the hottest industries right now. Anyone claiming not to be anxious would be lying. Everyone in City A's business circle believed this opportunity marked the beginning of Lu Group's meteoric rise. Even companies that had previously kept their distance from Lu Group because of Wang Group were now scrambling to seek cooperation. Afraid of missing their chance to curry favor, Lu Group's stock price surged accordingly. That said, it wasn't without hidden dangers. Funding pressure became Lu Group's most pressing issue. In order to push the cooperation with JR through as quickly as possible, Lu Group had made many concessions. For example, in terms of capital contribution ratios, JR, as an established enterprise, mainly provided technology, while Lu Group had to shoulder a much larger share of the financial investment. Even with bank loans, Lu Group's scale and credit rating still left a significant funding gap. With no other choice, Willow once again took the initiative to contact me, hoping to transfer the land adjacent to Wang Group's South City project. At this point, Wang Group was indeed the only company with both the capability and willingness to put up that kind of money. Naturally, I had no reason to refuse. After all, Connecting the South City project into a contiguous development would not only allow for greater scale, but also enable more comprehensive supporting facilities. In the original text, when describing this segment, Wang Group ended up getting dragged in through Willow and George's relationship in order to smoothly advance the cooperation with JR, investing heavily while holding a tiny share. Put simply, a complete sucker. Originally, I thought we were all basically family, so I didn't bother nitpicking too much. Who could have guessed that in the end? I'd just be doing all the work to benefit someone else. Soon enough, the two sides set a meeting. When we met again, Willow and the male lead, Makoto, were even closer than before. Thanks to this cooperation, Willow Lu's position within Lu Group had become even more secure. As for Makoto, he was directly appointed vice president, given full authority over this project. George, 40 billion, not a cent less. The female lead still assumed I'd be the same as before, easy to manipulate, so she threw out a quote even higher than the market price. Unfortunately for her, I was no longer the old George. Naturally, I rejected Willow's offer outright, and took the opportunity to push the price down hard. Willow and Makoto were so angry they nearly stormed out, but I wasn't worried in the slightest. At the moment, only Wang Group had the capacity to swallow such a large parcel of land. After a long round of back and forth bargaining, Willow, desperate for cash, finally compromised. Lu Group transferred the land to Wang Group at below market price. Just wait, it won't be long before Lu Group surpasses Wang Group. When that happens, you'll regret taking advantage of us today. As she left, Willow glared at me with venom in her eyes. Helping you through a financial crisis gets labeled as taking advantage. As expected, protagonists are the type who think they're losing out if they don't pick up free money. I watched Willow's retreating figure and silently mocked her. Although I had indeed acquired the land below market price, I had undeniably provided real, immediate financing relief for Willow. With the real estate market in a slump, the fact that Wang Group was even willing to take it over was already a blessing, and she still thought she deserved to make a profit on top of that. With funds in place, Lu Group's new energy project rapidly rolled out. During this period, Willow and Makoto's romance also became hot gossip among netizens. A Lu Group CEO who would rather run away from her engagement just to be with a poor, ordinary guy. There was nothing more stimulating for modern audiences, with Lu Group's PR department fanning the flames. The hashtag believing in love again dominated the internet rankings for a long time. On Wang Group's side, things were far more low-key. With the newly acquired Lu Group land, my assistant and the project team worked overtime revising plans, striving to maximize returns. The cooperation with Nadix also entered a stable phase, although it was likewise in the new energy sector and required massive investment. Funding a domestic emerging enterprise was clearly within Wang Group's tolerance. What's more, backed by Wang Group's scale and reputation, bank financing was more than sufficient. Chapter 15. Ever since buying that piece of land, my interactions with the male and female leads had grown fewer and fewer. For this cooperation, Lu Group had practically gone all in. The two leads were busier than ever, completely swamped with work. Naturally, they had no time to spare for a mere cannon fodder like me. President Wang, look, isn't that Makoto? One day, I took my assistant out to eat by the Bund. Sharp-eyed as ever, she pointed behind me. I turned around and saw Alicia walking closely arm in arm with the male lead, swiftly crossing the lobby and heading up to a private room on the second floor. An unexpected bonus. The original text never mentioned anything like this, only that Alicia admired the male lead. But judging by how intimate they looked, I caught a whiff of something scandalous. Of course, I wasn't about to let this opportunity slip. Forget eating, we instantly transformed into paparazzi and quietly followed them upstairs. From a corner on the second floor, just 1 second before entering the private room, I saw Alicia wrap both arms around Makoto and kiss him forcefully, then pull him inside. President Wang, isn't Makoto supposed to be President Lu's boyfriend? Isn't this kind of wrong? My assistant asked after they went in. How is it wrong? I said with a wicked grin. It's perfect. Just imagine Willow's expression if she finds out. President Wang, this feels a bit unethical. My assistant still had a pretty solid moral bottom line. Business is war. Anna, go hire a private investigator. City A hasn't seen something this juicy in a long time. I had no intention of missing a chance to strike at the protagonists, and honestly, they weren't even being discreet. In just over half a month, the private investigator handed me a thick stack of photos documenting their secret rendezvous. Turns out the two had known each other for a long time. Back when Makoto was studying abroad, he already had an unclear, tangled relationship with Alicia, despite the fact that she was married. So that's why Makoto was so confident they'd been having an affair all along. Such a touching love story, how could I possibly enjoy it alone? Soon enough, thanks to some kind-hearted netizen, these photos were accidentally uploaded online. Then, courtesy of a certain mysterious organization buying promotion, The images spread across the internet overnight. Because the male and female lead's relationship had been heavily marketed before, sharp-eyed netizens quickly identified Makoto. In an instant, online discussions exploded. Willow learned about it soon after. Already exhausted from overworking herself for the cooperation, she couldn't handle the shock and was hospitalized. I heard Makoto tried to visit Willow. My assistant said animatedly while cracking sunflower seeds at Wong Group. But he didn't even make it past the ward door. And I heard President Liu wanted to fire Makoto, she added. But old President Liu stopped it. That's only natural, I analyzed calmly. This cooperation is very real. Even if old President Liu is furious, he has no choice but to swallow it. Oh right, my assistant said, tossing away the sunflower seed shells and instantly switching back into work mode. Natick sent word, the first phase of their new energy battery technology is about to be released. They want to co-host a press conference with us and set a date with Wong Group. A press conference? How's Lu Group's project coming along? I asked. I heard they're also planning a press conference next month. With all these scandals, Lu Group's stock has been affected. They're desperate for some good news. If I remember correctly, Lu Group's new energy tech isn't as strong as Natick's. In the original story, their release dates were far apart, so it didn't matter much. But now the plot's gone off the rails, Natick's is moving faster. Before, Lu Group rose by stepping on Wong Group. This time, it's Willow's turn to get a taste of it. Having made up my mind, I spoke decisively. Notify Natick's. We'll also schedule ours for next month, right after Lu Group's press conference. Chapter 16. Time flew by, and before long, Lu Group's press conference arrived as scheduled. To be fair, JR Group really did have solid capabilities. The new generation battery they unveiled showed significant improvements across all parameters compared to the previous version, and production had already been planned. Although the reporters on site were far more interested in the emotional entanglements between the male and female leads. All such questions were brushed off with private matters, inconvenient to answer. With Lu Group's PR team steering the narrative and the wave of positive news, Lu Group's stock price promptly hit the daily limit. Watching the video footage of Alicia, Makoto, and Father Lu looking spirited and triumphant on stage, I felt deeply satisfied. Go ahead, be as smug as you want now. The more smug you are, the greater the disappointment will be later. I thought to myself. The only pity was that Willow did not appear at the press conference. I heard she was still hospitalized. Willow's condition was truly poor. She couldn't understand how pouring her heart and soul into everything had led to such an outcome. And worse still, she couldn't do anything about it. At that moment, Willow began to recall how good I had once been to her. Recalling her childhood self chasing after me, calling me Brother George. Just as she was about to contact me, Wong Group's joint new energy press conference with Natick's went live. At the event, the batteries developed by Natick's featured lower costs, higher efficiency, and improved safety. With the two products released back-to-back, it felt like a direct showdown. And by comparison, every metric of Lu Group's product fell short of Wong Group's. The product was effectively dead on arrival, even before hitting the market. This instantly turned the project, into which Lu Group had poured everything, into a complete joke. The stock market plunged to the daily lower limit. The board of directors was thrown into chaos, and Father Lu reportedly went gray overnight. Soon after, grief-stricken and furious, Father Lu publicly announced Makoto's dismissal. Finally venting some of his pent-up anger, JR Group also declared a temporary halt to the product launch, recalled Alicia to headquarters, and stripped her of real authority. This left the male lead, who had hoped to rely on Alicia for a comeback, a true lost dog with no home. The female lead, who had only just begun to recover, fell ill once again. Meanwhile, Wong Group leveraged this investment to climb yet another rung higher. As for Lu Group, because the product failed to launch as scheduled, banks began pressing for loan repayment. With the capital chain on the verge of collapse, Lu Group had no choice but to sell off assets to repay debts, suffering a devastating blow to its foundations. Chapter 17. That day, I was attending a lecture at my assistant's alma mater with her. On our way back, we were kidnapped by the desperate male lead and Mickey, who had brought several men with him. Mickey had long held a grudge against me, and now that Lu Group's downfall was largely attributed to Wong Group, he and the male lead quickly found common ground. Inside an abandoned warehouse, I looked at the male lead's haggard appearance. There was no trace left of his former confidence and high spirits. At this point, he had lost both his career and his love, and had fully completed his descent into darkness. George, it's all because of you that I've ended up like this. Bro, I've already told you, stay far away from me. Besides, you were just fired. Turning into this over such a minor setback, how is that my fault? And you, Mickey, shouldn't you be living it up as a spoiled rich kid, running around kidnapping people now? Do you even know what the consequences are? Listening to the male lead, I felt nothing but frustration. I genuinely couldn't understand how a perfectly good protagonist had turned into a kidnapper. You don't understand anything. Mickey, standing to the side, grew emotionally unhinged after hearing my words and stepped forward to punch me several times. It turned out the male lead had believed this cooperation would guarantee him massive success. He even planned to make extra money on the side, borrowing funds together with Mickey to buy large amounts of Lu Group and JR stocks. Some of that money even came from loan sharks. They had planned to ride the surge and cash out big. Instead, after barely tasting some gains, everything collapsed. The ordinary loans could be repaid slowly, but loan sharks charged compound interest. In just 1 month, the debt ballooned into an astronomical figure, enough to ruin both the male lead and Mickey. Left with no other options, the two decided to kidnap me, extort ransom from Wang Group, and then flee overseas. And somehow this is my fault. I listened to their explanation and helplessly refused to take the blame, but the male lead had no intention of listening. He stepped forward again, ready to vent his hatred with more punches. If you're going to hit someone, hit me. Seeing them about to attack again, my assistant rushed forward to stop them. Why is it that you were born with everything? Why do you have so many people helping you, while I can only rely on myself? Hearing my assistant speak, Makoto didn't calm down at all. Instead, he grew even more unhinged. My assistant could only stand there helplessly, tears streaming down her face. Enough. You just want money, right? I'll cooperate. Seeing that he had completely lost his reason, I decided that discretion was the better part of valor and quickly agreed. Somewhat exhausted, Makoto finally stopped. He made me record a cooperation video, then took my personal belongings. After instructing his men to keep an eye on us, he left with Mickey to threaten my father. The warehouse fell silent again, broken only by the distant sounds of the thugs drinking. Stop crying. If your face gets all blotchy, you won't look pretty anymore. Seeing my assistant still in tears, I hurried to comfort her. President Wang. I'm sorry. This is all my fault. She blamed herself through sobs. How is this your fault? They're after me. If anything, I dragged you into this. Don't worry, their target is me. They won't hurt you. Maybe they'll even let you go because feeding 2 people costs too much. No, I want to stay with you. I'm not going anywhere. Hearing my reassurance, my assistant blurted this out anxiously. The words made the tense atmosphere suddenly turn awkwardly intimate, leaving me momentarily speechless. Realizing her slip, my assistant lowered her head and fell silent. Earlier, President Wang, you asked me whether I wanted you to marry President Liu. I didn't answer at the time. Actually, I didn't want that at all. Do you know why? After a long silence, my assistant brought up my earlier question again. The moment I heard her words, I sensed what she was about to say and hurriedly cut in. Anna, can we talk about this after we get out of here? Okay. No, I want to say it now. President Wang, do you know, the first time we met wasn't at Wang Group's recruitment fair. Do you remember, 4 years ago, at the gate of C University, you helped a girl? That incident had never been mentioned in the original story. Back when my assistant was still a college student, young and inexperienced, she helped an elderly woman who had fallen down, only to be falsely accused by the woman's family of causing the accident and demanded to pay compensation. 6 or 7 people surrounded her at the time. She couldn't defend herself no matter what she said and could only cry helplessly on the spot. That was when George stepped in like a hero, standing in front of her and resolving the situation for her. Afterward, George said a few words of comfort and got into his car and left. Maybe he never remembered her, but the tall, resolute figure of the original George was deeply etched into her heart. She later overheard passers-by talking and learned that the man who helped her was named George. That was when the seed of affection was planted in her heart. Wang Group also became the company she most wanted to join, just so she could be closer to me. After graduation, she got her wish and entered Wang Group, and incredibly, she even became my assistant. It was just that back then, all my attention was on Willow. Feeling that the gap between their statuses was too great, my assistant could only bury her feelings deep in her heart. Now, not knowing whether she would even make it out alive, she decided she didn't want to hide anymore. President Wang, I like you. Having made up her mind, my assistant poured out everything she had kept bottled up for years in one breath. Anna. I'm sorry. After a long silence, my answer finally echoed through the pitch-black warehouse. It's okay, President Wang. Liking you is my own choice. Now that I've said it out loud, I have no regrets. Hearing that I was about to say more, my assistant quickly interrupted me. She already knew the answer. There was no need to hear the rest. The truth was, I had already developed feelings for her as well, but I couldn't get past the hurdle in my own heart. I stubbornly believed that what she liked was George, not me. And after hearing her recount her connection with George, I became even more convinced that I couldn't accept this relationship, even though my heart was bleeding at this very moment. Meanwhile, on the other side, the male lead and Mickey were simply too naive. After watching a few kidnapping movies, they thought they could copy them and become real kidnappers. Reality taught them a brutal lesson. My father, having weathered countless storms, didn't panic after receiving the ransom message and video. On one hand, he pretended to placate them and gather the money. On the other, he quietly contacted the police. In an era where surveillance cameras were everywhere, the police quickly traced the trail through citywide monitoring and locked onto the kidnapper's identity, the male lead. Just as the male lead and Mickey returned to the warehouse, fantasizing about taking the money and escaping overseas to live it up, the police arrived as well. The ending was simple. After confirming the hostages' safety, the police broke down the door and arrested the male lead, Mickey, and their accomplices, who were still dreaming of their future. Successfully rescuing my assistant and me, and waiting for the male lead, was a long stretch behind bars. Chapter 18. Having narrowly escaped death, I took my assistant out to celebrate. But after dinner, she handed in her resignation. Of course, I knew the reason. It was precisely because I couldn't respond to her feelings that I didn't know how to open my mouth to ask her to stay. She returned to Orange City. When my mother found out, she scolded me fiercely for being an idiot. Truth be told, I cursed myself the same way. On the other side, Lou Group's investment failed, its capital chain broke, and Willow came to me once again, hoping to rekindle our past relationship. How could I possibly agree? I rejected her outright. In the days that followed, I drifted through life in a daze. The image of my assistant lingered in my mind, impossible to shake. Only then did I realize I couldn't live without her. I had already fallen deeply in love with her. To hell with George, I am me, and I like Anna. At last, I stopped hesitating, but just as I drove toward Orange City to find her, my anxiety got the better of me, and I was involved in a car accident. Fortunately, it wasn't serious, just temporary unconsciousness. While unconscious, I had a very long dream. I realized that I hadn't transmigrated at all, I had been reborn. In my previous life, Wang Group had been taken from me by the male lead. I had watched helplessly as the woman I loved threw herself into his arms. Unable to bear the blow, I got drunk one night and accidentally fell into the water, drowning to death. Perhaps my resentment had been too deep, so I was reborn with memories of my past life. Yet I had mistakenly believed I had entered a novel. I am George, the George Anna loves. When I woke up, the mental barrier that had bound me shattered completely. I was indescribably happy, desperate to see my assistant. I ignored my parents' and the doctor's objections, took a driver, and rushed straight to Orange City. After arriving, I went through countless twists and turns before finally tracking her down. After returning to her hometown, my assistant had opened a flower shop. President Wang, why are you here? Just as she was about to open the shop that morning, she saw me, wrapped in bandages, and asked in shock and concern, listen to me. Before, I thought I had transmigrated. I thought this was a novel world, but I was wrong. I was reborn. I thought you loved George, but I am George. Anna, do you understand? I stepped forward and pulled my assistant into a tight hug, rattling off my rebirth secret like a machine gun. She listened, completely bewildered. Got it, got it. My assistant became convinced that President Wang had lost his mind. All she could do was soothe me first. Then she pulled out her phone again and started dialing an international number, clearly intending to urge Dr. Mao to hurry up. MHM. Before the call could even connect, I cupped her face and kissed her. At first, she struggled desperately, but her strength was no match for mine. Gradually, she stopped resisting. Her arms slid around my neck, and she forgot herself as she kissed me back with equal fervor. After a long while, we finally pulled apart. President Wang, is it what I think it is? Her face was flushed red as she asked softly, I love you. I looked straight at my assistant and said it clearly. We embraced each other once more. A few years later, my assistant and I were already married. My parents had stepped back from the front lines and were happily busy taking care of their grandchildren. Lou Group ultimately went bankrupt. Willow was imprisoned for financial fraud, and Father Lou, forced by life's hardships, set up a roadside stall, waiting for the day his son and daughter would be released from prison. After the male lead was jailed, he pushed all the blame onto Mickey and received a lighter sentence. Once released, with nowhere left to go, he took out online loans and illegally made his way abroad, seeking out Alicia once again. By then, Alicia had long been fired by JR Group, though she still had some money left. Perhaps out of lingering affection, she kept the male lead as a keptman, and the two embarked on a steel wool ball kind of love affair, messy, abrasive, and destined to hurt.